Hi, I'm Cailey, and this is Max Loves Midland.
Welcome back to the Max Loves Midland Show. I'm your weekly tour guide, Kevin LeDuc. And today we get to talk about some systems work, which is really interesting. And a lot of times it's the quiet work that kind of bubbles underneath the community. But before we get into what it is that you do, Cailey, I'm just curious, have you been stalking my Pinterest board? Because you walk in, you're matching me here. It just feels like this was well thought out. Was this planned?
It was just the universe. It was meant to be. We just shared some vibes today.
Absolutely. It could be that idea of whether it's just not quite switching.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like that flannel style still. We're not quite ready for T-shirts. Mm-hmm. They might be playing baseball, but we're not ready for it yet.
I need the cozy flannel.
Absolutely. So I know that you're not traditionally sitting in one of these interviews, and you're not always on camera, and you're not always doing stuff like this, but I'm just curious, what do you do? What does a day-to-day look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a forensic interviewer at Midland Child Advocacy Center. So the day-to-day looks a little different for me depending on the day. Sometimes it's sitting on the other end of an interview, speaking with children and teens. Sometimes it's working directly with families. A lot of times it's working with our multidisciplinary team. So a lot of different partners in the community. And I can tell you a little bit more about them because it's really an intricate team that works together. They're awesome. But the day-to-day really varies. It always ends up being around people, though. I'm always working with different people.
So you're working in a really important space, and I know this wasn't always what you wanted to do, right?
No, this was not always what I wanted to do. It wasn't even a job I really knew much about before coming into it. When I was younger, I definitely had a lot of different ideas about what I wanted to do. I wanted to try on everything. I was a very curious kid and really wanted to just test out everything. I never wanted to close any doors. I just wanted to always try different things and really explore. Explore hobbies, explore career options, I was just very much a daydreaming kid. So.
Well, we can't all make it big cliff diving. There's all sorts of options out there, and you ended up in this space now being an advocate for children, and that came from a degree in psychology. So when you got to college, and I know you graduated from SVSU, what did that look like to get to a space of understanding that that psychology degree was going to be the thing that fit you into the space where you wanted to be?
It almost felt like I stumbled into it. I went through a lot of major changes, but throughout my time in college, I worked pretty much the whole time I was there as a peer advisor. So I worked a lot with students trying to figure out what they wanted to do, trying to help guide people to figure out where their passions were, what they wanted to major in. I loved working with undecided students. But along the way, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And psychology, I took a 100 level just intro course as part of my, basic courses and ended up loving it. And then took the next one and then took the next one. And then it just kind of spiraled into, okay, maybe I'll minor in psychology. Okay, well, actually, I'll double major. Okay, this is actually where I want to focus everything. Just the interactive person-to-person, I don't know how to describe it, but
like that direct service work,
yes,
right?
Yes, the direct service work, exactly. It felt like it unlocked something for me. It just made sense to want to look deeper and to want to really dive into things with people, and psychology was a really good way to do that.
And it's such a human role, and we got to understand exactly where we fit into this puzzle that we call a community. And you're providing one of those services that folks don't think about on a day-to-day basis, and a lot of times when you encounter it, isn't always in a way that is the most positive for someone's life. And I'm sure that's tough, and that's very different than a lot of the roles that other people play. Like, I'm sitting here behind a microphone talking to you, and that's an extremely different space to encounter somebody than in this type of direct service work. And so we really appreciate having you in the community and doing that work. But how did your degree, what does it translate over to your actual job title?
So it's one of those things where I feel that my degree helped me a lot in just learning about people, learning about communicating with people and trying to kind of unlock those puzzle pieces and figure out answers, whether it's answers about their mental health or answers about what's happening, what's going on in their life. I feel like it really helped me in that area to just understand people a little bit better. A lot of folks that I work with have social work degrees, which I think of really similarly, they learn that people first aspect of things, really just understanding where people are coming from, what they might need, and how to best work through whatever they're going through with them. This job, it definitely is different in a lot of ways than other work that I've done. I'm not seeing people on a great day. I'm usually seeing people on one of the worst days for them, and that can be tough. But I do feel like, especially having the backing of a really supportive team, that person first approach is really important and helps me to remember that, like, this is a really amazing opportunity that I have to help them work through something really difficult, or to even just be there to try and guide them along a really twisty path when it comes to what happens next.
And your entry point into this work, you worked for the Underground Railroad at one point in time in Saginaw, correct?
Yes.
What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so that it was definitely a different type of job than what I do now, just because it was a lot more, I was a fly on the wall in a lot of ways. It's an incredibly important job doing the supervised visitations, but it was definitely more hands-off in a lot of different aspects of it. It was a lot of making sure to facilitate a situation that was really safe, where kids weren't being used, or I don't know how to describe it, but basically where kids were safe and could have a relationship with, potentially an offending parent. But I didn't get to directly impact a lot of those situations, and I wanted to move to a type of work where I could come in a little bit earlier, which was what appealed to me about the prevention work. And then when it comes to the work that I do now in the day-to-day, I get to be in that investigative, collaboration. So I feel that I get a little bit more hands-on.
I think it's really important for people to understand the type of services that really uphold a community and play integral roles in the health of some of our youngest residents. So when you look at the Child Advocacy Center, give me your boilerplate pitch. What is it that you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. So Child Advocacy Centers do a lot of different things. We are the only child advocacy center in Midland County. We cover the whole county. And we have two, we sometimes refer to them as like pillars of what we do. We have our prevention work and we have our intervention work. Prevention is really focused on education, like I mentioned earlier, in classrooms, going into classrooms, talking to kids about body safety, about consent, all of that, making sure that they really have the tools that they need to keep themselves safe and to speak up if ever they're not comfortable with something. Making sure that parents and caregivers and adults who work with children or around children have the resources and tools they need to facilitate tough conversations, recognize when a child might need help, or learn how to react appropriately if something's disclosed to them. And then we have the intervention side of things where I work, and that's where if there is suspected child abuse or neglect, when a report's made to like law enforcement or CPS, we act as kind of a hub for those investigating parties, and they send in a referral. We host the interview at our center where it's really trauma-centered, trauma-informed, child-centered, and try to just conduct that in a way that really focuses on making the child and family the center of their investigation, lowers the amount of times the child has to discuss something really traumatic. It just really acts as a hub for those things so that it's not as all over the place as it used to be, as uncoordinated as it used to be before CAC model was kind of the norm.
In a CAC model, you hear this is nationwide, correct?
Yes.
But it's not one overarching organization. It's more of a code name for the organizations in general, or how do the CACs function as an umbrella piece?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have like an accrediting body. So we have standards that we have to fall within to be accredited by the National Children's Alliance. And they really accredit and cover all of the CACs in the nation. And then we have some more regional umbrella organizations, if that makes sense. We have CACMI for Michigan. We have some regional divisions within both the country and the state, just to kind of support each other. But as far as that overarching accrediting body, NCA really sets the standard that we have to operate by, and that allows for all of our child advocacy centers across the nation to really make sure that we're doing things in a way that is consistent and just provides the same level of care, I guess, if that makes sense.
At the end of the day, you get to see, you've already mentioned sometimes people on one of their worst days. So there's a lot of weight that goes into that. So you escape the work, you're leaving the office. I'm sure it's always a little bit on your mind, but what are some of the things that you like to do in order to unwind and just kind of be in the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of different hobbies that I find very important and necessary to just being happy outside of work. I love anything creative. I like to make things. So I feel like that covers a broad range of what I like to do outside of work, whether it's making art or baking or, just creating something.
I heard you have your own podcast on the way. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah, if only. No, I really like to just feed those things that make me happy outside of work, whether it's like one of my many unfinished art projects or, baking something with family or friends or taking a walk out in nature and just, getting a little bit more reconnected and grounded after a tough day. All of those things really help me to get through those bad days.
And I know you recently moved to Bay City, and you are from the area. So where are you actually from?
Yeah, so I'm from just outside of Merrill. So Marion Springs is like the I guess town where I grew up. Very
now
small.
we know we're really talking about small town Michigan when you're like, hey, Merrill was the big city.
Merrill
That's
was-
where
Merrill
we had to go
was-
trek into Merrill.
Right. If we want to get to a stoplight, we would have to go to Merrill. There's one there.
Hey.
If we have to go to a grocery store, a little further. But yeah, Saginaw and Midland were like the big cities. So, that's where we would go if we had to go like grocery shopping on the weekend or something. We'd take a trek there. But Merrill was very small, very rural. I love the amount of like country and nature out there, though. It's always nice to get a feel of that, especially after being in what I consider, the city.
Yeah, you're in the big town right now.
Exactly. I know, I made it. But it's definitely a different vibe, but that same sense of like small town community, I feel like, I don't know, follows you throughout more than just Merrill.
What type of third places do you like to spend your time in, or where can we find you at?
All over the place. I love all of the coffee shops here, like all the cafes. I feel like there is always somewhere to go and just exist for a little bit, and I love that. In particular, I feel like one of my favorites is Stranded, the Yarn Cafe. I love it. They have such comfy couches. There's always someone working on a project there, so it's such a nice, cozy vibe.
That's awesome. And we talked about Midland specifically, and you said it was kind of one of your big cities that you would go to go shopping. But we understand that there is a certain perception of Midland, and until you kind of spend some time here, you might not really be able to formulate a full opinion. So before you started working in the Midland area, and I know you've been working in the Midland area now for, 3 years? About 3 years. So let's back it up. Let's back it up about 4 years. So what was kind of that initial opinion of Midland, or just coming from your gut? Like, what were those feelings you had about our town?
Great question. I feel like I had some preconceptions about Midland before being involved in this community. I feel like we've all heard the term, Sparkle City, and
They
that
have
is
yuppie people-facing initiatives with shows like this. It's absolutely insane.
yeah, I know. It's I feel that was like my idea of what Midland was is I didn't see a lot of what I see now in this community, but I thought it was a more exclusive place to be. I thought it was a more insular community, if that makes sense. And I didn't get to experience a lot of what it has to offer before I actually had the chance to really dive in and explore this awesome community.
So now, working in our community, I know that's kind of changed for you. So what are your feelings about Midland now?
Now I definitely see so much more inclusivity than I had, these ideas of what Midland was and, who operated in these spaces. And I feel that there's been such a push for just an inclusive community. And I see that. I see such a thriving arts community, which is amazing. I see so many spaces where truly anyone is welcome to have a voice there and participate in the community. I see just a much more welcoming, open community than I ever assumed before I became part of it.
And you're working across sector with a lot of professionals in our area now. And I understand that the prosecuting attorney's office, they will attend interviews when they can. And what kind of buy-in from local partners do you guys have at the Child Advocacy Center? And what does that mean for families that are trying to navigate the system?
Absolutely. So we are so lucky in Midland. Every time I go to a peer review with a different county, I just feel so blessed with the team that we have, because we truly do have so much buy-in from our law enforcement, from our prosecuting attorney, from DHHS, from our mental health partners who want to be connected, from medical who want to be connected. We have so much buy-in within our community, and it really creates a network that families can navigate a bit easier than just being out on their own and having to figure it out. We've got our family advocate who really helps to navigate those services with families, helps to find them what they need, do warm handoffs, make sure that everything is more accessible, and try to cut down on those barriers. But we're so lucky to have the buy-in we do, honestly, with prosecuting attorneys attending all of the interviews that they can. It's awesome.
And that's just part of the process. So if there's ever a forensic interview requested, what does that process look like for a child?
Yeah, so the process would look a little different depending on every situation, but ultimately we schedule forensic interviews when they are requested by law enforcement or CPS, and they kind of send us this information. We reach out to families and discuss what that process is going to look like. The fact that we have our center, what all that entails. Our family advocate does a great job of describing kind of step by step the process that families might go through, seeing the different rooms that we'll potentially interview in, talking about who will be present, what exactly the child is going to see when I meet with the child or teen day of the interview. I'm trying to be as transparent as possible about what's going to happen, what this looks like, the fact that this is a conversation between them and I. We have a team that also is in a separate room and is seeing this interview. Try to lay everything out for them so that there aren't any surprises. This is something that they can navigate a little bit easier.
And that's the intervention side of the work that's done at the CAC, but the CAC really works in two pillars, prevention and intervention. And you've talked a little bit about both, but how are those distinctly different?
Yeah, so prevention, at its core, it's focused on preventing child abuse and neglect from occurring. We know that in our world, there's always going to be something that we need to address, but what we want to do is to prevent this from happening so that we have less people coming in on the intervention side of things. We want to work to make sure that people have the resources and education that they need, that kids have the language and the understanding that they need to be able to talk if something ever does happen and to be able to set healthy boundaries. So the prevention is really, truly focused on just making sure that people have the resources that they need and making sure that children have the opportunity to live their lives as a child, to enjoy childhood, to be kids.
Yeah, and that's just an amazing piece. And this work has to be supported through engaged community members and supporters. And I know you have a huge event coming up really soon. And I'm sure many people have actually heard of it, but maybe they haven't went or they haven't taken that next step to explore. So let's talk a little bit about arts and advocacy. And we've already mentioned arts in this conversation. We've mentioned advocacy. But how do those two things marry for this event for the Child Advocacy Center?
Absolutely. So like you said, we rely on the community support for our operations. Being a nonprofit, like we truly would not be able to do what we do without support from the community. Whether it's through large organizations or just individuals who, donate time or resources, we really rely on that, and we really appreciate that community buy-in as well. As for arts and advocacy, that event is a really amazing event. I would encourage everyone to go if you've ever been. It's an awesome time. If you haven't, check it out. That is really focused on bringing the community together and sharing in our message and really just bringing to light what we do and highlighting its importance within the community. We have so much support from local artists at that event. We get donations from local artists as well as live painting from some amazing artists in the community where they'll create something that night to be auctioned off. We also get donations from other small businesses in the area that we can raffle off. It is raffle, sorry. We've changed the format so many times for that auction. So we get lots of donations from the community to have raffles there. We have drinks and food and just conversations about the work that we do. It's tough to talk about this type of work in public sometimes. People aren't always willing to have conversations about child abuse. It's not a fun dinner topic. But this event really serves to provide us a place to talk about the advocacy and the work that we do and how important it is, and do it in a place where people can enjoy their night and have a fun night out.
Well, that's the message, right? It's such heavy work, but removing that weight to just talk about the positive impacts, because as much as we can focus on this negative feeling we have when we have these uncomfortable conversations about complex things, and don't get me wrong, it is a very complex conversation and there is a lot of weight there, there is so much positive impact that this has in so many different spaces as well. And I think it is important to step back and celebrate that. And art is a great medium to kind of invoke that emotion and allow people to feel and experience in different ways. And are you looking for more artists, or how can people get more involved with this event?
Absolutely. So if someone is interested in donating art to the event, we are in the process of kind of collecting those donations right now. We have such an amazing group of artists that does consistently donate art to our auction, and works with the wonderful Annie Stout to kind of coordinate that. But we are always looking for more buy-in from the community, whether it's donating a piece, donating time, or just buying a ticket and coming to the event really is what we would love to see. We just love to see more people involved and willing to talk about this stuff and willing to hear the impact that CACs have on the community, because there is a lot more that we can provide than just being there on these bad days.
And so what's the date on that we're looking at? Is it May 1st?
It's May 1st.
May 1st?
Yep,
Okay.
May 1st. So it's coming up quick.
So coming up soon, if you're hearing this here, probably don't have too much more time to get your tickets and put it on your calendar. So let's make sure we're elevating that May 1st date and prioritizing it.
Absolutely.
Really excited. So where does that event take place at?
Yeah, so that's at Creative 360 at their new-ish location on Jefferson. They were amazing to host last year, and we had such a good turnout and such a good space for it. Plus, they always have amazing exhibits there, so it's just a great place to check out even outside this event. But it's there. It's May 1st, and I think it's doors open at 5:30. So definitely should be an amazing evening.
I need a staff photo of you guys outside of Creative 360 with the Art Builds Midland letters.
1,000%.
That's an original
Will be
project
done.
of Public Arts Midland from a long time ago. They were in different places, everywhere from down by the ballpark to sprinkled throughout town, down by the Tridge. So I think it's cool that it lives at Creative 360 right out there in front. As kind of a monument to art in our community, and I need a staff photo of you guys out there really celebrating.
Do that. Our auction this year is Happy Little Trees themed, so
Awesome.
maybe we can even get a Bob Ross wig in there.
I love that.
See what we can come up with.
You know, well, let's just mess Kevin's hair up a little bit, and we can get Kevin high with the
I feel like
the
if we get like a
full-on
teasing
cosplay.
comb, he'll be set. Yeah,
Absolutely, not too far off. We'll get him rolling. I'll send the email directly after this.
Perfect.
If there was something you wanted everyone in Midland to know about child abuse prevention or the work of the CAC, what would that be?
That would be honestly just how much it impacts everyone within our community. It's one of those things that I didn't know anything about child advocacy centers before I started working at one. That was my introduction to this whole space, to the CAC model, to all of it. But there's so many people that are impacted, not just directly by child abuse and neglect, but they know someone. It's so pervasive, and it needs to be talked about because it's something that can feel very isolating and can feel like you are on an island alone. But the more we talk about it, the more we can prevent it. The more we talk about it, the more we can understand situations where it's likely to occur. We can make people feel comfortable discussing it and really coming forward. It is something that impacts a community, not just an individual. And I think that is a misconception that, you know, is pretty pervasive, and that people need to understand that there is a far larger impact from these things.
Well, and I just think that people assume that these things are connected to perception of a community, and that what you think is happening is definitely what's happening, and that just is not the case.
It's just not the case. It truly is always larger than that.
Yeah. And we have huge socioeconomic differences. We understand that demographics within the city of Midland are much different than the county of Midland, and Midland isn't the only community in this county. We have other impactful communities as well: Coleman, Sanford, our townships, and your work spans across all of these spaces, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Child abuse does not just occur in one socioeconomic group. It does not occur in one racial identity or ethnicity. It does not occur in one religion. It occurs all across the board, and it's something that we are fighting to make sure it doesn't happen all across the board. We want to minimize that, and it is pervasive. It is something that occurs despite any perceived boundaries that we have about the community.
You're a true advocate for families, and you're helping prevent these type of situations and occasionally intervening, and I know that's a big part of your work. But you have your own family as well. So what was it like growing up with your family, and what was that setup looking like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a great family support system. I'm very close with my sister Chelsea, very close with my parents. I'm very lucky to have a support system in them that I have, as well as the support system I have with my friends. Growing up, my sister and I were always quite close. I feel like we've gotten even closer as adults, but even when we were kids, I mean, she was my older sister, of course, there was dynamics there, but we were always really close. We never really fought, a lot of shared interests and a lot of just kind of supporting each other growing up.
And I know you said you recently went to a concert with your sister. I know you guys went and saw Motion City Soundtrack recently, and I challenged you on I Am the Movie versus Commit This to Memory.
Fair.
And it's a little bit tough to go between those two albums, kind of a little bit like you can't separate it. But I want to talk a little bit about some more shows that you've went to in the past. So let's name some of your favorites and just kind of have a little bit of a conversation.
Yeah. Let's see. Some of my favorites, Chapel Roan was a great show. Loved that. I went and saw...
Where'd you see Chapel Roan at?
I saw Chapel in, it was supposed to be Detroit, but then that show got canceled, so moved to Grand Rapids, got tickets for that show. Really got in there when tickets were still cheap, which was awesome. I think I paid like $30 to go to that show, and then when I wanted to get tickets again, it was like 10 times as expensive. Yeah, that was awesome. I still remember seeing My Chemical Romance with my sister because that was just like ever since I was little. Like I need to go see Gerard Way.
You were
so that
in
was
the
amazing.
Black Parade.
I was so ready. So that was an amazing concert. And then I got to see Joan Jett with my mom, and like Joan Jett, Heart. That was such a great concert too. I love going to the like classic rock concerts. A different vibe, but equally amazing.
We haven't done it yet on the show. Now would be the perfect time, but it would be just too long of a segment. I want to do the Gerard Way being in New York City during 9/11 pipeline.
Oh my gosh.
All the way to all of these life events that have occurred.
Yeah, we truly... It's
not a conspiracy. There's facts of this.
No, there's facts. There's cold, hard facts. Yeah, truly, that could be its own podcast.
Well, I think that's what's going to happen. I'm going to remake the movie Butterfly Effect, except it's just going to be about Gerard Way being in New York City on that one particular day.
I will back that so hard. I will crowdsource for that project.
We're gonna pull the script up and we're gonna get it rolling now.
Perfect.
I'm sorry we don't have a little bit more time to talk, but I'm gonna ask you something we ask everybody at the end of each one of our episodes, and it's one very specific question about Midland, and it's if you look forward at Midland in the next 5 to 10 years, what are some of your hopes and dreams for this community?
I want to see it continue to grow as this inclusive place where really everyone feels like they have a space to talk. Everyone feels like they are part of the heart of this community. And I want to see it expand. I want to see more of those places where people can go, those, I think you called it third spaces. I want to see more of that. I want to see the circle grow out here. That's near where our office is, and seeing new businesses come in there, seeing people really frequenting businesses that have been there for a while. It's awesome to see that interaction. I love the arts community here. The Art Scene Festival, isn't that? Yeah, that whole community is just awesome, and I want to see that continue to grow. I just want to see this growth and continuing in the direction that it's going now.
I've had so many conversations about the Circle in Center City lately, and we've both worked in the Circle for a while now at our particular organizations, and it's kind of was just a hub of nonprofits for a while, which is great, but that's just one pillar of a community. But now we're seeing so much more investment, and you talked about Stranded, and Sergey is such a life, like a place that's so full of life and so full of opportunity and just a real good promise to the community. And I just think there's so many great places popping up in the Circle. So I hope that we could come back to this in a year, 2 years, 3 years and track it and just say, wow, these are dreams that are being actualized here in Midland. And I have a feeling they will be. It's a lot of hope right now. A lot of hope.
I think so too. I would love to see that space be a place like the downtown where during the summer, you can have people just walking around enjoying the space. I think it'll happen.
All right. Well, Cailey Brown, one more time, where can people learn more about arts and advocacy?
Yeah, so at our website, midlandcac.org is where we have all of our information, as well as our Facebook page. Those are always being updated with just general information, but event information specifically. And you can buy tickets right through the website link. Everything is there. But you can always call us if you have any questions, too.
Awesome. May 1st, see you there.
May 1st, see you there.
All right. And we'll see you there as well. And we appreciate you being along for another ride of the Max Loves Midland Show. I know we talked about Midland being a place where everyone can have a voice, but that's the mission of the show. We're building a human library here. So come out, tell your story and what it's like to live in Midland. And we hope to have you on someday as well. Make sure you're checking out our website, maxlovesmidland.com. We've had over 3,500 events posted there. Those are opportunities for folks to get to know one another, for you to spend time with other Midlanders and really find your home here in the community. We believe that if you fall in love with a place, you'll take care of it, you'll be healthier, and the community will also be healthier. And we're going to end this episode the way we end every episode. If you build a bridge and it doesn't work, go back to the drawing board and build a tridge. Thank you so much. Subscribe wherever you consume media. Max Loves Midland is your entertainment, resources, and collective improvement hub for Midland County. Plan your next adventure in Midland at maxlovesmidland.com.